You know, the number one secret to being a financial professional, it's not this new Lamborghini here. It's knowledge. That's why I got these 2 new bookshelves installed, and I don't even call them bookshelves. I think them as knowledge containers. I can't do this. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new here, my name is Josh and I am a certified financial planner. One thing that you'll find very fascinating is that Tai Lopez, before he became like one of these self-help gurus who sold like courses on getting rich quick, he was actually a financial advisor. He was a wealth advisor at a company called GE Capital, which is super funny. Anyways, all that being said, I hope you enjoyed my little riff on Tai Lopez. That guy's hilarious. He's absolutely nuts. But all this to say, we're talking about knowledge today because I had a career in financial services, and I think when I started this channel, I did not think we would have this kind of, what do I even call it? This kind of what? When I started this channel, I did not think we'd have this kind of following or interest from other financial professionals or other young people who want to get into financial advice or wealth management as their career. I thought we would be mostly just talking to retail investors and people who were interested in these topics. So today I want to really answer the question that I'm getting more than any other question, which is, what are the resources I need to be surrounding myself with? What is the knowledge I need to be downloading into this little noggin in order to be successful in my career as a financial advisor or as a financial professional or whatever it might be? And so today I want to run through what I think are the most important things to become successful as an advisor. And I think obviously the first things first, which I talk about all the time, is you have to know your stuff. Like, not only do you have to know your stuff, you have to understand things. And I want to go on a little bit of a tangent here, and it's that there's a difference between knowing something and understanding something. Knowing something is like, you know, I've read a Wikipedia page, and understanding something is like having the hyperlinks all. That makes no sense. It's a horrible analogy. Let's redo that. Knowing something is like reading a book on a shelf and having read that book. But understanding it is having read 15 different books and knowing how they all link together. It's like having a framework or like a lattice work in your mind of how all the different ideas work together, so that when a client or a prospect or someone who's interested in what you do comes and asks you a question, you know how to answer it, you know the right context, you know how to frame it. There's a difference between understanding, being able to recite something back and recall something and say something that's actually impactful versus just having read your textbook. And I think today, that is what I really want to focus on, is what are the 4 things you can read in order to start to begin building that understanding, that deep foundational first principles understanding of investing and of creating wealth and all these certain things that you're going to need to know as a financial professional. So the first book I want to talk about is the funniest thing ever, because every single other one of his books is absolute trash. And I mean, maybe I'm writing it off a little early, but I think they're not worth their salt. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, okay? I talk about this book a lot, but the reason I'm talking about it is because it changed my life. I remember I read that book for the first time, and you know, previous to this, I'd gone to Google and put in the search bar, highest paying job, least amount of work. And no offense, pharmacists, but when I hit search, pharmacists came up. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. I'm gonna be a pharmacist. I'm gonna make $100K a year, and I'm gonna put a white coat on every day, and I'm gonna just pour soups together. I don't know. Anyways, all that said, I actually decided once I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad that I don't want to be a pharmacist. This is exactly the opposite of what I want to do. I want to have a job doing something I really love and enjoy, and actually maybe become a business owner. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about principles of wealth. How do you stop thinking as, you know, maybe an employee or someone who just works for hourly wages, and start to think about, how can I multiply my time? How can I find ways to maybe be an investor, be a business person, and actually start to create wealth? And when I read that book for the first time, it absolutely blew my mind. I'm not doing it justice. It's one of those things that you have to go read right now. Now, the next book you're gonna have to read is one that you're not gonna be able to get your hands on, so too bad for you, but it's this guy named Nick Murray, and he is legitimately like a consultant or coach to a financial advisor. And you know what, I'm never sure if that's a good thing, because they say if you don't know how to do it, teach it, or if you don't know, teach. If you can't do, teach, something along those lines. And he's purely just a teacher for financial advisors, and I guess kind of that's what I'm doing right now. So, oh man, I'm just Nick Murray has a book called Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth, and it is one of the most profound books I ever read for my career, because it talks all about how wealth doesn't require these massive risks or these insane insights, it requires one thing that is in very short supply, which is discipline. And it requires having a system. And it talks a lot about how you can have a symbiotic relationship. Is that the right word? A mutually beneficial relationship between a financial advisor and a client. And I think that it is one of the most important books that you can get. But here's the interesting thing. Nick Murray doesn't sell them in stores. You actually have to buy them directly through his website for like some insane price. And he has all these ridiculous requirements for like speaking engagements. Like he won't speak at dinner, and he won't speak where beers are being served, and he won't speak in a city that's like more than 1,000 kilometers outside his city. Crazy guy, pretty eccentric, pretty insane, but his book is absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend you go read that one. And if you've been a follower for this channel for any amount of time, you'll know I kind of have this hard on for this guy named Naval Ravikant, and he is like, man, he's the greatest. He's just the greatest. He came onto the scene when he did a podcast with Joe Rogan. And essentially Naval was the founder of a company called AngelList. It's kind of like the Kijiji or like the Craigslist, but for startups. So you can find like new employees, you can find business ideas, you can find different assets for your company, whatever it might be. And he has actually seen and helped thousands of different startups become massive businesses. He was an original investor in many of these different startups out of San Francisco, and he's been a crypto guy forever. And essentially he came on Joe Rogan, essentially just started dropping bombs of wisdom on people. And what he does that is really cool that not a lot of people do is he combines philosophy with entrepreneurship and investing. So it's this weird thing, and he even has this analogy. It's like, if you go to a circus and you see a bear, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then you see a guy riding a unicycle, you're like, that's kind of cool. But if you see a bear riding a unicycle, it's like, whoa, that's freaking cool. And that's exactly what Naval is. He's kind of like a bear that's riding a unicycle. He's this philosophy, life, meaning, and purpose guy combined with investing and entrepreneurship. And I think he, better than anyone else today, has the right prescription or the right framework for thinking about how to build wealth and how to start investing and how to be an entrepreneur and how to take risks. So a book came out this year that condensed all of the best wisdom from Naval into one single book. And the best thing about this book, which is the exact opposite of Nick Murray, is it's completely free. You don't have to jump through hoops to get it or even buy it for some insane price. You can actually go to navalmanac.com and you can download a free PDF. And if there's anything that this channel does for you in terms of providing value, it's probably just directing you to that link, because Naval can teach you more about anything than I could, and he is absolutely incredible. Now, for the last book that you have to read, here's one thing that I find that's interesting about my line of work, is that when people invest, the investments themselves will do most of the work. People love to get overly involved. It's interesting. Investing, finance, it's like this thing where like the harder you try, the worse you do. And what I mean by that is like if you're trading and day trading every single day and waking up and looking at your monitor and trying to trade different stocks, you're probably going to waste a lot more time and do a lot worse in your investing than someone who even just bought some ETF and held it forever and kept it simple and didn't overcomplicate things. And our last book that I want to talk about is a guy named Jack Bogle. And I actually met Jack Bogle. Here's a picture of me and Jack Bogle. It's in horrible resolution and it's black and white, but I met him and he was a wonderful guy. He was the coolest guy ever. He is essentially like the Amazon or the Jeff Bezos of the investing world, because he came out with essentially what was the index fund. And if you guys know anything about investing and finance, ETFs and index funds are everything nowadays. So I met Jack Bogle and he wrote this book called The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Super short. And what he details in that book is that most of the success that you're going to get in your lifetime as an investor isn't going to come from shooting for the fences or trying to do anything insane. It's going to come from limiting drag, right? Like drag is when you're trying to run and there's a parachute on your back and there's just so much drag from the force of the air that it's slowing you down. Left to your own devices, you could go pretty fast, but the drag is what slows you down. When you invest, there is drag. There's things like taxes and commissions and advisory fees and all these different things. And I think that Jack Bogle does the best job of laying out the most common sense case for how you should be investing, not to try to maximize gains like throwing money in GameStop and cryptocurrencies and all these sorts of things, but just reducing the drag that you have on a regular portfolio of investments, keeping it simple and reducing the pitfalls or reducing the errors. Again, guys, I think that the most important things if you're going to be starting as a financial professional are: one, you have to know your stuff, and two, you need to be creating content online. Kind of as a case in point, is that's what I'm actually doing. I'm walking the walk and creating content online, and I think that you can't really create content if you don't know to some degree what you're talking about, or you can't link different ideas together. So this is the full start. I think you need to immerse yourself in this world of investing And if I were to start again today, I would start with those 4 books. So anyways, guys, I hope this answers your question. And if you're one of the people who hit me up in the DMs and said, which book should I read? Well, I'm happy I was able to send you this link. And if you got any value from this video whatsoever, make sure to hit that like button below, hit that subscribe button if you want to support the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.